With the advent of an election, members of Congress get out with the people. And each and every one reminds voters that he or she is single-handedly responsible for every great thing the government's done since the last election and desperately fought against everything awful that's happened on Capitol Hill. Meanwhile, most of the political press spends every night in their own beds inside the Beltway and eagerly awaits the next round of polling information to arrive on their BlackBerries. Our next guest recently decided to inform his political analysis the old-fashioned way, getting out with the people, just like members of Congress. Let's see if he actually learned anything he couldn't have picked up from blogs in the comfort of his own home. Joining me now is Time Magazine columnist Joe Klein. Joe, this is what I call cheating.
Yes, it is.
Okay, the rest of us are sitting here in makeup in studios, looking at BlackBerries and giving our wise words to the nation on what's happening out there. This going out there and talking to them, no, not fair.
It was an excuse not to watch cable news and to listen to a lot of really good music and eat a lot of really bad food.
It's called reporting.
It is called reporting. And they're cool. I mean, you know, at the beginning of the trip, I put out an all-points bulletin with Time readers and said, here's the itinerary. If you have someone you really want me to meet and I'm coming through your state, I'll do it. And we had about 20 meetings all across the country with co-workers, with, you know, civic leaders, with family members. And, you know, I did a couple of dozen interviews with politicians along the way, too. And the politicians were far outstripped by the folks who are eloquent and freaked out.
Now, we like to do graphs here, and we like to paint states red, and we like to paint states blue, and then some of us get very sophisticated and say, oh, that's a purple one, because they don't all think the same in that state. Do they all think the same anywhere?
No, you don't find any straight-ahead conservatives or liberals in this country. It's really hilarious. There are people who hate the president. I was talking to this cop out in the burbs of Detroit, who obviously thought the president was a socialist Muslim radical, and he wasn't going to say it, but it was clear. I just don't like that guy. And then I asked him, what do you think we should do about the economy? And he says, we need some good old-fashioned FDR-style, you know, jobs programs. They aren't consistent. They are upset. And the thing that upsets them most is that the stuff that they care most about, the politicians aren't talking about. They care about jobs. But the debate in Washington is whether we should do more federal programs or reduce the deficit. What they care about is the fact that millions and millions and millions of jobs have gone overseas. And the politicians haven't done anything about it, and they think that both parties have sold out. That was the most stunning thing about this trip.
When you try to categorize these people after talking to them, and you discover, well, let's see, this one is for tax cuts and is pro-choice. Where am I going to put her?
Right.
I mean, that's the reality of talking to real voters.
Of course it is. And, you know, what you said about polls is very true. You know, it's distressing to me that so many of our colleagues think that polls are reporting. They're not. And there's also the syndrome on cable news where there's a 2-point shift in a race and we have big news, a major shift. No, it's within the margin of error. And so, I mean, I suppose it's going to be a big Republican year. You can feel that. But, you know, these races are waged by individuals, and each race is different.
On the China thing, these are consumers whose houses are filled with stuff from China, who are worried about, Christine O'Donnell says, she knows, she's got the classified information, that China has a plan to take over the United States. How paranoid, you know, Christine O'Donnell has actually said they have a plan, she has the classified information, and she's gone so far to say she wish she didn't have this classified information. You know, are they as paranoid as that out
No,
there?
Of course not. Of course not. And by the way, who has who over a barrel? We got all their products, and they have all our debt. We can inflate our currency anytime. I mean, how stupid are the Chinese? But the real problem is, and I talked to a lot of Republicans who are feeling this, that they understand that the loss of these millions and millions of jobs has caused a spiritual problem out in the middle of the country. And one guy said to me, and I don't believe him for a minute, but one guy said to me, you know, I'd pay $50 more for a DVD player if it meant some American had a job. And the fact is that there's this narrative building about the financial community. The same guys who did the mergers and acquisitions in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, now turn their attention to the housing market and produce these crazy mortgages for people who should never have had them, and then these even crazier casino gaming products like credit default swaps. People look at the most unpopular thing that Barack Obama has done was the bank bailout.
White House speechwriters, did you get that on China? We have all their products. They have all our debt. And Joe, you don't even demand to give credit. Obama can use that anytime he wants. Right? All right. Joe Klein of Time Magazine, thanks for joining us tonight.